Holocaust Memorial Day takes place on the 27th of January each year. It's a time to remember the millions of people murdered during the Holocaust under Nazi persecution and in the genocides which followed in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. Holocaust Memorial Day is a time when we seek to learn the lessons of the past and recognize that genocide does not just take place on its own. It's a process which can begin if discrimination, racism and hatred are not checked and prevented. We're fortunate here in the UK, we're not at immediate risk. However, discrimination has not ended, nor has the use of language of hatred or exclusion. There's so much to do to create a safer future, and today is an opportunity to start the process. In 100 days back in 1994, approximately 1 million Tutsis and moderate Hutus were murdered in the genocide in Rwanda. On 6th of April 1994, the plane carrying Rwanda's president was shot down. Extremist Hutu leaders accused Tutsis of killing the president, and civilians were told by radio and word of mouth that it was their duty to wipe out the Tutsis. This was a terrifying attack. It was almost all done by hand, usually using knives, machetes and clubs. The men who had been trained to massacre were members of death squads. Local officials assisted in rounding up victims and making suitable places available for slaughter. Tutsi men, women and children and babies were killed in their thousands in schools and in churches. Frequently the killers were people they knew. Darfur is a region in the west of Sudan bordering Chad in northeast Africa. Before this conflict, Darfur had a mixed population of around 6 million black Africans and Arabs. Then there was civil war, and 200 to 400,000 civilians were killed, but the numbers could have been so much higher. Up to 2.6 million are still displaced. They've been forced to flee their homes to live in refugee camps. After the Second World War, Bosnia was one of 6 republics in the state of Yugoslavia. The country was led by someone called Marshal Tito, and he succeeded in keeping everyone calm. He was brutal, but no one dared to move. Following his death in 1980, nationalist parties began to gain power in the republics, and they all wanted to declare independence. The Bosnian War resulted in the death of around 100,000 people and the displacement of over 2 million men, women and children. The genocide at Srebrenica is the largest incident of mass murder in Europe since World War II. The world simply didn't learn the lessons of never again. We are blessed to think about today, tomorrow, next week, next year, yesterday. But in times of the horrors of war and persecution and destruction, you don't think about yesterday. Tomorrow you may not be here, so there's no point worrying about tomorrow. You just think about today, one day. That's what we're thinking about now. It was only today that you had to cope with, and you got through it as best you could. That's the attitude of so many survivors. They didn't worry about anything other than getting through the day. Despite escaping the genocide in 2003 and seeking asylum, safety in the UK, Sharif Barko was tragically murdered when he returned to Darfur to arrange for his daughter to join him. He was helping others until the end. It was Saturday, 16th of January, 2021. Sharif was killed during an armed attack on a camp for displaced people. He was helping women and children escape to safety as the camp came under siege. When he was injured, he was taken to a friend's home, but he was followed by members of the militia who beat him and ended his life. Emma Douglas, the lawyer who helped him, said, "It doesn't surprise me in the least that he was helping others until the end." Musa Uitanze became an orphan after being separated from his family during the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda. He was raised in an orphanage. Born in 1991, the youngest of a large family with 2 sisters and a brother. In 1994, when Musa was 3 years old, the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda began. His brother, whilst attempting to protect his sister, was gunned down by the militia and murdered. Musa, now an adult, works as a professional photographer and runs photography workshops for children. He aims to give young people a creative way to express their feelings and their grief and to share their stories. So this year's theme is one day. If one day is enough to destroy a person's life, destroy the life of a village, of a city, of a town, of a country, of people all over Europe, then one day surely is enough for us to come together and say, today is the day. We're not going to say never again. We're not stupid enough to believe that human beings can succeed in loving each other. We like it. We pray for it. Religion are looking towards that day when there'll be peace, when nation won't lift sword against nation, and there'll be no more hatred and there will be bonds of friendship. But let's get real and let's just see what we can achieve as us. So we can learn to choose today, one day, to commit, going to use my words to create bonds of friendship, not hatred, not to make fun of, not to isolate, but to include. Not to use words and claim that they're banter when really that's bullying. And I'm going to use my body not to push people away, not to kick people when they're down, but to lift them up. And actually, I'm going to use my hands to stop people falling down. I'm going to make sure that my friends and those that are not yet my friends are okay. That's what we can do on Holocaust Memorial Day. Look around the room now. Think to yourself, how many people in this room do I never speak to? Who are not my friends? Who's not my clique? And then think of the people next door in your year group and in the corridor with you. If we're going to succeed in learning anything from all these horrific events that took place after the Second World War, after the Holocaust, after 1.5 million children were killed and 6 million Jews and millions others lost their lives, and the world thought we're never going to do it again. Let's try. If we never try, we're sure going to fail. If we try, there's an opportunity. There's hope. So today, join me in committing today. Let this be our one day where we make the promise to improve the world, starting with ourselves and those nearest to us. Have a good day. And if we remember, then those who are no longer here won't be forgotten, but they'll be the catalyst, they'll be the energy, they'll be the motivation that makes us all change. Let's remember and make that change.